Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
And it's great to see all of you here this wonderful, wonderful day. And I must admit, David, I didn't know you could play the guitar. I see you're truly a multi-talented musician there. I like it. We are concluding our series entitled A New Way of Thinking. And we want to be clear the purpose and the objective of the unity teachings. A major part of the purpose and objective of the unity teachings is to help each of us to improve and transform our lives. Is there anyone that would like to improve or transform any aspect of your life? Yes. Amen, for sure. Which is not to say that your life is bad. Don't get the wrong impression. You may have a good life. Things may be going well. But that doesn't mean that it's perfect, and that doesn't mean that there's not room for change or improvement. That doesn't mean that there aren't new goals for you to set. That doesn't mean that there aren't other ideas, other aspirations within your being that are waiting to come forth and waiting to be expressed. So we are talking really and truly about a spiritual journey. A journey that gets us and takes us closer in consciousness to God, our higher power. And when I say closer in consciousness, it's because we can never be separated from God. There's just God, and God manifesting in and through us. So we can never be separate. It's not an idea of, and we talked about earlier in the series, about God being up in the sky somewhere and us being down here and us having to pray to God because God is so far away. No, we are talking about a God that is within us, and we can always be close. We are always close to that presence and that power that we call God. The idea is for us to realize it and to realize that in our oneness with God, that we can and truly are able to improve and transform our lives, that we can and we are able to overcome the issues and challenges and obstacles that may appear in our lives. We indeed are able to overcome the limiting and negative aspects of our past. Unity has 5 basic principles, 5 basic beliefs, and they are on our bookmark. And if you haven't got one, you can pick one up at our bookstore downstairs. And the third unity principle states that you and I, everyone, creates conditions and experiences in our lives by our thoughts, words, and feelings. We create conditions and experiences in our own lives. So it's like we are co-creators with God. And in that creation, in that ability and power to create conditions and experiences, is the ability and the power to change conditions and experiences in our life, world, and affairs. So we really have a lot of power within us, but we just don't realize it. And part of the reason that we don't realize it is because of all the things that are going on around in the world and in our lives and in our physical body and in our past and on and on. So we limit ourselves by all of these other things as opposed to focusing on the truth of our being and then expressing that truth. So we have the power to make changes in our lives and to do things that in the past may have seemed impossible, or things that others may have said, well, you can't do that, that's just not, you're not going to be able to do that. Why do you think you're going to be able to do such and such? So we have a power within us. Now, with that power comes responsibility, because we can't just go around using that power of our thoughts and our words to do negative things or to hurt other people. We don't necessarily want to do that. Our motives should always be upstanding. There's a story of a high school student. She was about 16 years old. And she was upset that her parents weren't giving her enough money for her to buy the things that she wanted to buy. You know, she's 16. She wants a lot of things. So she decided she was going to go out and try and get some kind of work for herself. So she said to herself, well, maybe I can hire myself out as a handyman. I can do things. My father taught me how to do certain things around the house and whatever. So she does that. She goes, door to door in her neighborhood and so on. And she goes to one house and the man, she tells the man what it is that she's interested in doing, her skills. And he said, okay, well, here's something I have for you to do. I have a porch out in the back of the house that I'd like you to paint. She said, fine, paint it, no problem. And he says, and the paint supplies are on the side, you'll see them when you go toward the back. And the man says, and I'll pay you $50 to paint the porch. He said, fine, no problem. So she goes in the back, and the man's wife comes out and said, honey, you gonna pay her only $50 to paint that huge porch that we have? And the guy said, well, that's what she agreed to, so that's what, So she comes back a little while later and says to the man, his wife standing there, well, yeah, I finished, painting. And he said, okay, great. So he gives her the $50, and then he feels a little guilty about what his wife said. So he gives her another $10 extra, So she said thank you, she starts to walk away. And then she turns around and she says to him, oh, by the way, I put a second coat of paint on it because I had paint left over. And I know you said it was a Porsche, but actually it's an Audi. So
Audi car.
There's only one Audi. So in terms of your intentions and in terms of the words that you speak, definitely let them be positive, because the results may not always be what you want otherwise. So we are talking about us having the power within our own being to create conditions and to change conditions in our life, world, and affairs. The thing that's really fundamental is that in order to really do that on a consistent basis, it's necessary for us to develop a new way of thinking, a new way of being, a new attitude about ourselves, and a new attitude about our future, and a new attitude, a new understanding about God. And we talked earlier in this series about God and about the truth about God. We said that God is a loving God. God is not a vengeful or a deceitful God. It's not a God of war and anger and revenge. God is a God of love, and that's the truth about God. The truth about ourselves. See, again, we're transforming. The idea is to transform our entire being so that we can transform our entire world. We're not just trying to change certain aspects about our being. We are trying to transform our entire being so that we can transform our entire life, world, and affairs. So as we are developing a new way of thinking, and this is the title of our series, A New Way of Thinking, the idea is to realize that we are not limited by our past, to realize that we are not limited by the things that people have said and done to us. We are not limited by our health. We are not limited by society at large. See, developing that new way of thinking has to do with really releasing the old and limiting and negative thoughts about ourselves, about life, and about the world. Okay, are you with me? We are talking about really doing something that's doable, transforming our being, eliminating the old and limiting thoughts and attitudes and beliefs, some of them that have been deeply implanted in our subconscious. The thought that we're not worthy. And I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but have you ever felt that you weren't worthy of experiencing something good in your life? Have you ever felt that, well, yeah, this is something I would like to do, but I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it's for me. Unfortunately, many people have had that feeling within themselves. It's a limiting and negative feeling, and it's part of what needs to be eliminated and erased from our consciousness so that we can live the type of life that we were created to live. In our book that we've been using, Alternatives, there are a number of ideas and concepts that we've been talking about and that many people believe, many Christians believe, but they don't understand why where these beliefs came from, and they don't understand that while some of these beliefs just aren't true. For example, Satan. Many people believe in Satan, the devil, and the tempter, the adversary is called by many people. But they don't realize, in our book, the author talks about it, it's on page 64. He talks about the fact, for example, he says, during the period in Jewish history known as the Babylonian captivity, which was nearly 600 years before the time of Jesus, the first of the Jewish scriptures were recorded. Prior to this time, they were handed down from mouth to mouth and from mouth to ear, rather, from generation to generation in what was called the oral tradition. So people talked about and shared these stories from person to person. And then it says that it was later deemed desirable to write the story of creation. First they wrote about Abraham, and then they wrote the story of creation. We kind of think of the Bible as being chronologically correct, that Genesis was written first, and the next book in Exodus and Deuteronomy, and all the way to the end. That's not the way the Bible was written. As a matter of fact, in the New Testament, many people believe that Matthew was written first, and then Mark and Luke and so on. That's not true. Some of the writings of Paul were written before the Gospels were written. And as a matter of fact, the first Gospel, the first of the four Gospels that was written was Mark. Most people talk about Matthew and they quote Luke and John and don't quote as much from Mark. But Mark was the first gospel that was written, and Matthew and Luke took a lot of what they wrote from Mark's gospel. So, we're talking about, I started talking about Satan, and the author goes on to say, he said, what influenced the introduction of a satanic character into the allegory of creation? We all know that Adam and Eve were tempted by the devil, and Adam ate of the forbidden fruit and fruit from the forbidden tree, and as a result there was the fall of man, and as a result all of us, according to this story, are sinners. That's what the story said. That's what many people believe, and that's part of what we had to release and eliminate from our consciousness, because it just isn't true. And the author goes on to say that much of the belief of the Persian culture went into the writing of the story of creation. And he goes on to say that the ancient Persians believed in a true God religion. One was good and the other was evil. And that idea, that concept, was accepted by the writers of the scriptures, the writers of the Old Testament and Genesis, and the other books as well. There was what's known as the Babylonian captivity, as I mentioned. So the Jews were in captivity in Babylon. So what happened? Well, they accepted some of the beliefs of the Babylonians. Some of those beliefs were put into the Bible. And as time went on, those beliefs were accepted by the Christians, and they were accepted as the gospel. But they were not a part of the original teachings. They were part of the Babylonian teaching. They were part of the Persian teachings about Satan and the devil and so on. And they were accepted later on by Christians, and they're accepted today. But part of the problem, if you will, with the Babylonian captivity is that the Jews lost a lot of their own religion and their own religious practices, and they accepted the practices of the Babylonians, which was a totally different culture. So today we believe in Satan and the devil because of the Babylonians and the Persians. Did you get that? Okay. Which is to say that if the Jews had been in captivity by another culture, another group of people that believed something, that believed in whatever else, then they would have accepted those ideas as well. And us, thousands of years later, would still be accepting these ideas and still be living our lives because of these ideas. Many people believe that there's a devil, there's a Satan, who's just, and it's written in Isaiah, is referred to as Lucifer. But that was an idea that was accepted from the Babylonian culture. It is not a part of the Jewish tradition, it's not a part of the teachings of Jesus. So my friends, again, we're talking about eliminating ideas and just cleansing our mind of thoughts and beliefs and attitudes that are not true. And when you eliminate those, what you do, you want to replace them with the truth. However, it's not easy. It's not an easy process. Many people were raised from the birth, believing that they're a sinner, believing that God didn't love them, believing that there was an entity known as the devil who was tempting you at every turn, and you had to be careful because that devil's all over the place, and you never know, he's working through that person over there and somebody else over there, and you gotta be careful and aware of the devil. You gotta be okay. It's just not true. But for us to change our consciousness, to change our ideas, to change our attitudes, indeed can be a difficult process. But it is a process, and it's something that we need to be daily engaged in. It's something that we need to look at ourselves every single day in whatever it is that we are doing and realize the truth, which is that there is only one presence and one power. They are not two powers, God and the devil, and they have equal power and equal significance and equal importance. No, there's only one presence and one power, and that is God. That is good. We are talking about a process of truly changing our own thoughts and attitudes and beliefs. If we don't do that, then we won't truly experience all of the good that we desire. And everyone who's written a letter to God saying, well, God, I like this and I want this in my life. Well, if you're still holding on to those old beliefs, those old negative feelings, those limiting concepts, if you're still holding on to them, you're in trouble manifesting your dreams and goals and aspirations. The truth is that everyone can indeed live a better, more fulfilling, more productive, healthier, and happier life. Look at your bullet. Take out your bullet. That second paragraph from today's reading. In bold letters it says, we truly can live a better, more fulfilling, more productive, healthier, and happier life. Now let's make that a personal affirmation. I truly can live a better, more fulfilling, more productive, healthier, and happier life. Somebody needs to say that again. All right? I truly can live a better, more fulfilling, more productive, healthier, and happier life. Amen. I can. And take our eyes off of the limitation, off of all the things that you tried to do and failed and do. You didn't really fail, you just found out ways that didn't work. Okay? But you learn things in the process. Take your eyes, take your focus off of the aches and pains that may be in your physical body. Take your mind away from your bank account and all the money that you say isn't in there. The money that you want in there is in the universe, and it is waiting for you to claim and appropriate it from the universe. Why? Because God is good and God wants the best for us. So you and I, really, I like the word truly, but you really, truly can live the type of life that you want to live, the type of life that God wants you to live, which is a better, more fulfilling, more productive, healthier, and happier life. Somebody needs to write this down and put it on the mirror in their bathroom, in their bedroom, and put it on the desk or whatever in their office. So when somebody needs to write this down and put it in their wallet or put it in their purse and read it over and over again. So when you think about all the things that you can't do, haven't been able to do, and that people said you're not going to be able to do, and that seem like you're running out of time, running out of money, running out of space, and all the other stuff, affirm this affirmation and affirm the truth about yourself. Lift your consciousness up to the truth of your being and away from the limiting and negative ideas, away from the facts, because we indeed do become confused by the facts. Our opening statement from our bulletin, let's look at this and let's affirm this together. I go forward now with a new and better understanding about myself and my future. Somebody needs to work with this. Today and tomorrow and the next day and every day, we are on a journey of learning, a journey of connecting consciously with the truth of our being, with that presence and power that is within us, that is God, that wants us to succeed, that wants us to prosper, and that wants us to indeed live a better and more fulfilling life. My friends, we are talking about a new way of thinking, a new way of living, a higher expression of the life, the God life, the Christ life that dwells within each and every single one of us. This is the truth, the whole truth, and it cannot be otherwise. God bless you.